Fugo and Chu, the big guy and Flam, Gogeta, everybody is here, even Miu. Oh my god. Okay, guys, also here. We're really trying to see the end of the Fritz game. Glad to see everybody. Me give everyone
You know
some
it.
points.
Keep the compliments coming. It's like music to my ears. Get it twisted.
And then I'm gonna get, well, accidentally added an extra 0. Lots of money. Oh, you already lost it all. I only meant to give 8,000, but stuff happened, you know? It'd be like that. So rich. Ain't no way. Actually a millionaire. You love to see it. How everybody is winning, what the heck? Well, except that time, you know, it happens. All the stunts. Oh. Dongo, are you okay? Oh no. Hey, at least you didn't go all in, right? I think Miyu can toast you if you want. Let's go ask Miyu to do it real quick.
No information found on Gojira 1954. It might be too rare even for the Pokedex. Keep it twisted.
Too rare. See, even Miyu thinks you're one of a kind. That's kind of sweet, actually, if you think about it like that. That's a high honor. But oh yeah, we were in this car, I think. Yeah, it was this car. No, we're all old too. Okay, let's do this. Is the game like... Why do I like this? Hold on. I guess we'll do it like that. And I'll move the chat mic over here or something. There we go. You're not getting in the way of all of the sacred texts. Nom 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 nom. There. Why is me all the way over there? Go over there. Deja vu. It has begun to snow by the time they pass Utsunomiya on the Tohoku Expressway. I think this car will be in Fortnite, yeah. Do you like my car? I hope the roads aren't snowed out, Koji says. In the passenger seat, Fuminori is gazing out of the frosted window in silence. He's been in this trance-like state for almost an hour now. No, stay in the car. Avoid backseating on. Called out. Taking advantage of this inattention, Koji stares unabashedly at Fuminori from the corner of his eye. He still doesn't understand the danger signals that he's been getting from the man. But she's trying to remind herself to be nice. Okay, it happens, you know. Slip of the tongue. Fuminori has stopped avoiding Koji, and he's even looking him in the eye when he talks. So why does he seem even more distant now than he did when he was trying to push his friends away? Fuminori's posture is noticeably relaxed, but his gaze never wavers, not even for a moment. It's as though he is focused on a clearly defined future that he has chosen to bring about, one that has no place for the needs or wants of others. Right now, Fuminori is complete. Koji cannot help but feel that beneath his bland exterior is a core of solid steel that no one can touch. About Omi, Koji says suddenly, trying to gauge Fuminori's reaction. It's been a week since she disappeared, and we still haven't heard from her. Oh, Fuminori replies curtly, still staring into the distance. Hey, she is a Polanook. Doesn't ring a bell, but I'll trust your interpretation. But yes, hi Nando. That's not good. I wonder what happened to her. Fuminori's tone is completely emotionless. Koji might as well have asked him about the weather or the condition of the mountain roads near their destination. I asked you this before, but you're sure you don't have any idea what happened to her? Not a clue. Fuminori answers in exactly the same tone that he used when Koji first questioned him following Omi's disappearance. Koji's eyes narrow. It's like he don't give a damn. That's not true. Finally, Fuminori shows some emotion. He sounds hurt. Like he can't believe Koji could think of such a thing. Polytopus. She disappeared on the way to my place, didn't she? Of course I'm worried. Sudden frustration wells up inside Koji. If possible, he'd like nothing more than to beat the secrets out of Fuminori's head. Koji is worried sick about Omi. To have his concern brushed off so coldly would be unbearable coming from a complete stranger. But from Fuminori, who was his best friend, it's... Fuminori never used to be this callous. Even if Koji tried to interrogate him, he'd probably never find out what changed himself. If Fuminori were still just hiding inside the shell he'd erected around himself after the accident, Koji might have been able to get some answers out of him. With the sly, evasive Fuminori, however, there's nothing Koji can do. Fuminori will never reveal his true intentions, not to anyone. All that's left then is for Koji to discover the truth on his own. Omi was going to talk to you about Tsukaba, you know? Oh? Fuminori smells bitterly at the mention of Tsukuba's name, perhaps feeling sympathy for her pain. To Koji, however, it seems like pity, the one sorts that directs at an ant or a worm. I wouldn't know what to say. To be honest, it's been hard to talk to her about what happened. Unbelievable. If Fuminori's feelings for Yo were really this cold, then he would have rejected her when she first confessed to him. But he didn't, or at least the Fuminori before the accident didn't. No. He has no feelings even for this worm. Once again, Koji can't help but wonder if the man who looks like his friend is really different from who only possesses the memories of Sakisaka Fuminori. The snow has stopped falling when they get off the West Nasu Flats interchange. This area must already be getting a lot of snow. However, as the nearby mountains are covered in white beneath the trees, by the time they turn off the highway and enter the mountains, road conditions are already bad enough for Koji to have regret having forgotten tire chains. Nevertheless, he continues to power his car up the precarious slopes, with only a road map to guide him. In places like this, an address isn't enough to pinpoint location. His only choice is to drive down every road, including private roads that are even on the map, while searching for something that matches the photograph. Who would buy a home in a place like this? I would. It's far from prying eyes. That's why Dr. Ogai chose it. The more he hears about Ogai, the less Koji wants to meet him. Fuminori is the one who spots the narrow road half hidden in the trees. Yeah, right? That's why I would like to live in a town like the one in Higurashi. Like all of those abandoned houses in Japan. Peak aesthetic. It's practically an animal trail, overgrown in weeds that are tall and strong enough to withstand the weight of the snow. Is this really a road? Koji stops the car and sticks his head out of the window to stare into the dark forest. But he can't see where the path leads through the tightly packed trees. How does it look to you? Fuminori hands Koji the photo, which she compares to the mountain ridges visible beyond the trees. Yeah, it's definitely the right angle. Angles mentioned. Let's check it out. Fuminori's tone is as flat as always, but there is a quiet intensity in his voice that leaves no room for argument. Although Koji is worried that his car's suspension will be able to handle the terrain, there is no turning back now. He shifts it to second gear and starts down the frozen road. The sun sets early at high altitudes. As the car creeps up the mountain path, Koji catches glimpses through the trees of the gradually darkening sky. The forest is completely still, but no sound save for the rumble of the car's engine and the crackle of snow and brush beneath its tires. Fuminori is once again staring silently through the front window. In the ominous silence, Koji feels the same faint chill that he felt when standing before Ogai's suburban home. It feels wrong, as though he is traveling deeper and deeper into a world not his own. After some time, a blocky shape suddenly appears amid the trees, standing out against the twilight sky. Koji turns off the engine and compares the structure in front of him to the picture in his hand. A perfect match. Before he can tell Fuminori, however, his friend is already out of the car. Oi. Realizing that it's pointless to call out to him, Koji shakes his head, grabs the flashlight from the glove compartment, and follows Fuminori across the snow-covered yard. The photo must not have been taken recently, as the old run-down cabin before them has clearly been left at the mercy of the elements for some time. The front door appears to be locked, but Fuminori kicks it down with a second thought. Koji just watches, knowing that nothing he could say now would matter. All of the windows are shot with heavy curtains, and the gloom inside is thick and stifling. Fuminori turns on his own flashlight and starts rummaging through the cabin without regard for its owner's privacy. Koji is reluctant to do the same, but it is obvious that this mountain retreat has been abandoned for so long time, just like the house in Tokyo. There's no point in being considerate now. He goes to search a different room. Soon after entering the cabin, however, he realizes that their search is meaningless. There's nothing inside but the bare necessities of life. Some rooms are even completely empty, save for a thick layer of dust on the floor. Of what few pieces of furniture are present, more than half appear to have never been used. There's an empty chest of drawers without a single scratch or handprint, but bearing the telltale signs of mold and moisture damage. The condition of the cabin is eerie, though in a different way than the filthiness of the house in the city. It's like somebody put together a mock-up of a home and then left it to decay. The only signs that anyone lived here are found in the toilet, the bath, the kitchen, and the bedroom. It appears that the cabin was never used for anything but eating and sleeping. They checked the toilet. Maybe they found that the toilet seat was left up. Beneath the darkened sky, the snow itself seems to glow with a cold, white light. The scene is like something out of a fairy tale, but to Koji, it serves only as an unpleasant reminder that he has stepped outside of the reality that he knows. Next to the front porch is a plain wooden door half buried in the ground. It's locked, of course, but Koji sees no reason for restraint after what Fuminori did to the front door. It just might be. The door opens, surprisingly a little resistance to Koji's heavy kick, breaking down to reveal a set of concrete stairs leading down to a pitch-black basement. Koji would prefer to leave such a forbidding place to Fuminori, but it's not like he can just ask him to take his place. He descends into the chilly darkness, the beam of his flashlight leading the way. Heyo. There turns out to be nothing in the basement but a storage room and a boiler. Exactly what one would expect to find in such an isolated mountain cabin. I was expecting there to be test tubes of homunculi in there. The few packages of preserved food sitting on the shelves have long since passed their expiration dates, and the boiler doesn't appear to have been used in years. Koji guesses that Ogai's mountain home has been abandoned longer than the house in Tokyo. Was Fuminori simply mistaken when he said that Ogai might be here? Or was he lying from the beginning? Not sure what to do next, Koji goes back up the stairs and walks around the outside of the cabin, and there he finds the backyard. Okay, that's really spooky. It's in much worse condition than the front yard, having been mostly reclaimed by the forest. It must have been neglected even when the cabin was still in use. The remnants of a woodshed lie in the yard. The mushrooms growing on it speak to how much time has passed since its collapse. Next to the rotten logs, however, stands a circle of stone that has not yet succumbed to the elements. Yeah, right? Oh well. Noel has no bucket or pulley. And when Koji peers carefully into it, he sees that the water is no longer flowing. It's probably less than 10 meters deep, depending on how much mud has piled up inside. I thought he was going to get pushed into the well for a moment. Koji's search of the cabin has revealed nothing of interest, inside or out. Leaning against the edge of the well, Koji wonders why Ogai bought this remote home in the deep of the mountains, and what he was doing here. As far as Koji can tell, there's no sign that more than one person ever stayed here. It's far from prying eyes. Fuminori's words play back in Koji's head. Could this have been some sort of secret refuge? A place to remain hidden from the world? That would explain why there's nothing to suggest that whoever lived here did anything more than eat and sleep. I mean, that's kind of what my place would be if I had one. Koji suddenly remembers the doctor he met yesterday at T University. Maybe she'd know something. He takes out his phone and calls up the number. There's barely a signal, but it manages to get through. Koji's hopes are soon dashed, however, when his call goes straight to Dr. Tanbo's voicemail. Water. What? He considers calling back later, but realizes that it would be hard to talk to her with Fuminori around. Fuminori would not be pleased to learn that Koji and Yo went to see his doctor. Koji decides that he'd better not tell the doctor what he can while he's still alone. Hello, this is Tono Koji. Thank you for your help yesterday. Koji leaves a clear and concise message, explaining that he went with Fuminori to Ogai's mountain retreat, giving the address and asking for confirmation that the property belongs to Ogai. I'll call back again when I get back to Tokyo. Goodbye. After hanging up, Koji thinks back to their visit to the hospital. Is Dr. Dunbo actually investigating like she said she would? Her reluctance to speak of Dr. Ogai is weighing on his mind. He talked to Yo about it on the way home, but they were unable to decide whether the doctor could really be trusted. Speaking of which, how is Yo doing? Koji hasn't seen her today. He didn't say a word to her about his trip to Tokiichi. She might be worried, especially so soon after Omi's disappearance. Thinking to check up on her, Koji dialed Leo's number and is surprised when it rings longer than it usually does. Did she forget her phone somewhere? Just as about to give up, the call connects. The first thing Koji hears is a strange sound. It's not signal interference, but some kind of wet, distorted noise, like the voiceless groans or perhaps sobs of someone far away. No, that's exactly what they are. The person on the other side is crying. Tsukuma, is that you? Who's there? There's a response, but is it really Tsukuma's voice? It's too twisted with agony for Koji to tell. Panic surges through Koji as he realizes that something is terribly wrong. It's Koji. Tono Koji, is that you, Tsukaba? Where are you? After a short period of nothing but pained moans, words start coming through the speaker one by one, as though each takes an act of will. I was attacked by a monster, and now there's something wrong with my body. What? What happened? Are you alright? You must be delirious because Koji can't understand the things she's saying. Her gasps and wheezes, however, enough to tell him that she's in unimaginable pain. I'm rotting away. My skin is melting. My ear just came off. She's not making any sense. Koji feels despair seize his heart in an iron grip. What is happening to Yon now, 100 kilometers away? Only her voice gives any hint of what she's going through. There's nothing he can do for her. Help me, Koji. This isn't how my fingers are supposed to look. Call the cops, Tsukaba. Call for help. Will suddenly breaks into a violent hacking cough, as though trying to expel something filling her throat. Koji screams into the phone, his reason overwhelmed by unimaginable horror, which is why he is unable to react when the phone suddenly is knocked from his hand, and also why he didn't notice Fuminori sneaking up on him until it was too late. What? Fuminori sieges. seizes Koji's lower jaw with his right hand, cutting off Koji's angry shout. Koji can hardly believe the strength of the smaller man's grip. His biggest mistake was leaning back against the wall. There's nothing to grab onto as Fuminori pushes him backward over the edge. He can only flail his arms vainly against the air. Well, that sucks. Koji soon loses his balance entirely. He feels a terrifying weightlessness as the world spins before his eyes. Before he can realize what has happened, his back strikes something with tremendous force. He thrashes wildly as cold, dirty water fills his mouth and freezes him to the core. Only when his fingers find the wall of the well is he able to regain his sense of direction and right himself. On his hands and knees in the mud, Koji vomits filthy water out of his lungs. Fuminori, he tries to shout, but it comes off as a hoarse groan, distorted by the echo in the cramped space. Fuminori's laughter, on the other hand, is as clear as a bell. Sorry for interrupting your call, he says scornfully. Here, I'll return this. Fuminori tosses Koji's phone into the well. Koji catches it just before it hits him in the face, but finds that the battery pack has been removed, rendering it useless. What the hell are you doing? This is no joke. It's a miracle that Koji's uninjured. He could have easily broken his neck. And just because he's not hurt doesn't mean he's safe. Koji feels around the inside of the well, searching for something to hold on to. But the mud-covered stone offers no purchase. It's obvious that he won't be able to get out without help. Too bad the fall didn't kill you. Now you have to freeze to death. You really have no luck, Koji. You can't be serious, Koji starts to say, but the trails off as the pieces finally come together in his idea, or in his head. Today's sudden change in Fuminori's attitude. Only in the wrong timelines. That smile has always seemed malevolent. Fuminori hadn't been smiling at Koji, but at the thought of his friend's death. Why? He can't wrap his head around this turn of events. Why would Fuminori try to kill him? True, Fuminori had wanted Koji to stay out of his business, but is that really a motive for murder? It's not that I needed you dead right now, exactly. But you might have become trouble later on. So I figured I might as well take advantage of this remote location to, well... Might as well? You're doing this on a whim? Do you really need a reason to die? Fuminori replies calmly. He sounds truly amazed that Koji would ask such a thing. What makes you so special, Koji? People die for no reason at all. My parents did, and I almost followed them. You're crazy. Come up with your own reason, why don't you? You'll have plenty of time down there. This is his Joker arc. Fuminori disappears from view, leaving Koji alone in the darkness with nothing to connect him to the outside world. Koji shouts at the top of his lungs, knowing beyond a doubt that if Fuminori leaves, all hope of rescue will vanish with him. No one will ever hear him calling from the bottom of this mountain well. It's Squaba, she's in trouble. Hey, Fuminori, listen, get me out of here. In his desperation, Koji no longer comprehends the futility of begging for mercy. No god or devil will answer him. His only hope is that Fuminori will have a change of heart. Praying for a miracle, he keeps calling Fuminori's name. Eventually, the sky grows as dark as the bottom of the well. Koji can no longer make out the edge of the opening, and he has long since lost track of how many hours he has been screaming. Can we add like the little like Pedro meme where the little like raccoon is circling around this entrance? Nevertheless, he continues to scream, for he knows that the despair of silence will still kill him. I feel great. The same feeling you get when the last piece of a difficult puzzle slides smoothly into place. I've killed a man, and no one will ever know. It is a long way back to civilization, but neither the cold nor the exhaustion can ruin my good mood as I walk alone down the snow-covered mountain road. I was tempted to use Koji's car, but that would have introduced a flaw into the plan. I don't want anyone to connect me to his disappearance. The plan formed in my mind the moment I realized how remote the location was. Even if I couldn't find anything to lead me to Dr. Ogai, his absence would at least prove that the cabin had been utterly abandoned, in which case it would be perfect to spot to take care of a problem. I knew coming all the way out to Tochigi wouldn't be a waste of time. I didn't even need to use the meat cleaver hidden under my jacket. A dry well. It's like fate itself provided me with the perfect setting. That idiot didn't even realize the danger he was in, and his phone call distracted him enough for me to take him by surprise. Now one of the two people whose questions might have caused for me and Saya some trouble have vanished from the face of the earth. All that's left is to eliminate the other. Tsukabayo. I mustn't underestimate her just because she's less aggressive than Koji. Even she should be able to see a connection between the disappearances of her two friends. You know, I was thinking that they came up with this plan together. It's like, oh, I'll take care of Koji. You take care of Yo. I suppose I should be thankful that it was Yo to whom Koji was talking on the phone. If he'd reported our location to a third party, I'd have to track down and eliminate that person too. I'm a little worried about what they were discussing, but judging by how Koji was screaming into the phone, they probably weren't exchanging detailed information. Either way, I'd better get rid of Yo as soon as possible. After walking all night long, I finally reached the Nasu Flat station just as the trains were running. It only takes an hour to get back to Tokyo on the Limited Express. It's not enough time to rest, but I'm too wound up for that to matter. Besides, I don't want to waste any time thinking up a way to kill Yo. Using the cabin again would be too dangerous, and I'm not sure how I'd get her out there in the first place. I just exploded in her face the other day. Yo? I doubt that she'll be as quick to trust me as Koji was, which means that it will be difficult to get her alone. I could ask Saya for her opinion, but even I have some pride. I want to show her that I'm a man who can take care of business. Nah. Saya's been girl bossing it in the meantime. Unfortunately, I'm unable to come up with anything before I get home. I suppose that I should just be proud of having dealt with Koji, the immediate threat. The search of Dr. Ogai's cabin was a bust, with no trace of him having been there. But I see no reason to be frustrated. Saya isn't all that concerned about the doctor's whereabouts, so looking for him is just as something to satisfy my own curiosity. I'm home. It's morning, half a day later than I normally get home, and the sound of Saya running down the stairs tells me how impatient she was for my return. It makes me feel warm inside. She throws her arms around my neck, her smile at least 20% brighter than usual. Sorry I'm late. There was a change of plans. It's okay. I'm just about done with my preparations too.
準備
Mm-hmm. Preparations. Saya responds to my confusion with a mischievous smile. I'm getting a surprise ready for you.
どういうこ
What kind of surprise? That's a secret. Anyway, aren't you tired? Do you want to eat or take a bath first? I don't realize how hungry I am until Saya mentions it. I walked all night without a bite to eat, and now my stomach's emptiness becomes painfully clear. However, I can't sit down to a leisurely meal while covered in dirt and sweat of the
と
road.
軽く何か口に入れてそれから風呂に入りたいな温まるまでゆっくり
I'd like to grab a quick snack and get in a long, hot bath first. I thought you'd say that, so I got the bath ready. You must be cold after being out all night.
ああそりゃもう
Yeah, I sure am. So sweet. I'm amazed by Saya's foresight. She's always ready to give me what I want before I want it. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you had a hard time. While soaking in the bath together, I tell Saya about my adventure.
殺すのは思った以上に楽だったんだよだが帰り道がね
Killing him was easier than I thought. The hard part was getting home. The heat of the bath is soothing, as is the sensation of Saya leaning back against my chest as she massages the fatigue out of my stiff leg muscles. I'm home. Contentment fills me. I don't even need to sleep to relieve my exhaustion. Just like the living room and the bedroom, the bathroom is painted in the colors that Saya and I find pleasing. We've left the entrance in the hallway untouched just in case somebody should see inside. So these 3 rooms are the only places I can relax in my own home.
この季節でも山の寒さは尋常じゃないね薄着で行ったのはつくづく失敗だった
It was cold in the mountains, even for winter. I should have worn heavier
この
clothing.
辺りは投資するんじゃないかってヒヤヒヤしたよ
I was afraid I'd freeze to death when it got dark. Why didn't you just take that Koji person's clothes?
おいおい工事は井戸に落としたんだってば着てた服も井戸の底だよ
And pushed him into a well, remember? His clothes were with him at the bottom. Oh, yeah. Saya laughs and sticks her tongue out bashfully. So now there's that Tsukaba girl to worry about?
工事が消えたのと僕のことを結びつけて考えそうなのはそいつ一人だけだからね彼女の始末が終わったらやっと安心できるんだが
She's the only person I can think of who can connect me to Kochi's disappearance. After I take care of her, I can finally relax. Saya glances me over her shoulder like she knows something that I don't. Have you already thought of a way to kill her?
それがまだなんだいろいろと考えたんだけどねだからさやの知恵も借りようかと思ってさ
Well, I have been thinking about it, but I haven't come up with anything yet. I was hoping that you might have some ideas. Leave it to me, she says, grinning with unusual confidence. I've got ways you'd never dream of. It's as good as done.
そうか
Wait, really? Okay, it should be ready by now. Saya's voice is full of anticipation. She rises from the bath. Come on, I have something to show you. Close your eyes. Don't open them until I say so, okay?
うん
Okay. I have no idea what's going on, but I do as Saya says and close my eyes. She takes my hand and leads me up the stairs. As I wonder what she has in store for me, the sound of crying reaches my ears. I stiffen.
さや、上に何かいるんじゃ。
Is someone here?
目を開けちゃダメ。
No peeking, she admonishes me, then strokes my arm soothingly.
危ないものじゃないから安心して。大丈夫。
Don't worry, there's no danger.
あ
Alright. Little by little, the crying grows louder. I can hear the misery and pain in every choked sob. At first, I'm amazed that Saya would let someone in our house after what happened 2 days ago. But then I realize something is strange. Isn't Saya the only one whose voice can carry such clear emotion to me? Although my eyes are still closed when Saya leads me into the bedroom, my ears tell me that there is somebody only a few feet away. And yet, I smell none of the human body odor that usually turns my stomach.
さあ、ご対面。ふみのり、目を開けて。
Okay, time to say hello. Open your eyes. I open my eyes, and I'm dumbstruck by what I see. Tsukabayo is curled up on the floor, but not a scrap of clothing to cover her shivering body. When I first lay eyes upon her naked flesh, I am entranced by the sensuality of her generous proportions, far more mature than I would have expected from her usual pure and innocent appearance. Wait, forget about that. Why is she in my bedroom, naked? Moreover, why is she...
どうふみのり。この子の体、どんな風に見える？
Well, how does she look to you?
綺麗だ。でも、なんで僕にもちゃんと。
She's beautiful, but why can't I? It doesn't make sense. It's a Tsukabayo I remember, not the putrid creature whose attentions I found so unbearable. After the incident, my senses recognize her as the human that she
この子ね。
is.
ふみのりのことが好きだったんだって。
This girl loves you, you know? I do know, but I've never told Saya. How did she find out?
だから私、この子の体を作り変えてあげたの。ちゃんとふみのりにも可愛がってもらえるような姿に。
So I decided to change her body into one that you can love back. Saya pauses to gauge my reaction and continues with a satisfied nod.
私の同類にしてあげたの。
I made her like me.
どうしてどうやって
What? How? I still don't understand why Saya chose Yo, but this last statement is even more baffling. She changed the Yo?
ねえ、ふみのり、おとといも言ったでしょ？私には他の生き物の体に細工ができるんだって。
Don't you remember what I said the other day? I can mold the bodies of other living things. Yes, I remember. She claimed to have done something to Suzumi's brain. I didn't doubt her sincerity then, but I suppose that some part of me thought she was exaggerating. I hadn't seen her handiwork firsthand. But now,
隣のおじさんにしたような小細工じゃなくて、今回のは大掛かりな変換だったけど、でもこれが私の能力の本当の使い方なんだよ。
it was a big change this time. Not like the little tweak I made to the man next door, but this is how my abilities are really meant to be used.
実際にやってみたのはこれが初めてなんだけど、
This is my first time doing it though. She's a natural.
これが本当によ。
Is this really Yo? Yo finally notices my presence and turns her head to face me. I see a faint glimmer of recognition in her glassy, unfocused eyes. Her features are exactly as I remember them. Incredible. This is far beyond cosmetic surgery. Once a twisted creature unrecognizable as human. Yo is now the very image of human femininity. There is no similarity between what she was and what she is, which can only mean that she has become something utterly inhuman. You immediately mentions it too. According to Saya, she has become what Saya is.
人か人目の生態構造についてはね、さやはもうこの星で一番のエキスパートなの。いっぱい勉強したからね。
No one on this planet knows more about the biology of Homo sapiens than I do, Saya declares, her voice full of pride from her first creation. I've studied a lot.
今日って
Studied?
何を誰から学んだんだ
How did you learn this? Who taught you? When? She couldn't have learned it from Dr. Ogai. No teacher on earth could impart such skill and
だっ
knowledge.
て毎日ふみのりのそ
Come on, don't you remember what you've been giving me every night? Oh. Taylor blushes.
あれ要は人間っていう生き物の設計図みたいなものだから。
Oh, DNA. Yes, yes. That's like a blueprint for human body.
私にはそれを読み解くことができるの。好きなようにいじることもね。
I can decipher it and then I can bend it to my will. What is she, really? I've accepted that she isn't human, but there's more to her than that. Saya is something that far transcends my species.
でもね、やっぱり最初だったもんだから手際よくできなくって。
It was my first time though, so I might have messed up a little. When Saya approaches, Yo trembles and tries to crawl away, but is only able to flail her arms and legs wildly, like she doesn't know how to move her own body. And the only sounds coming out of her mouth are frightened moans.
食べれないのか。
She can't talk.
あいにく心の方は壊れちゃったみたい。
Yeah. Saya sighs in mild disappointment. I guess the change broke her mind.
なんだかんだで変身が終わるまでに20時間もかかっちゃったから。
I mean,
ちょっと
it did take a whole 20 hours.
かなり苦しかっただろうし。
She must have suffered a lot. I feel kinda bad. Barely, but it is now. Yo looks up at me pleadingly, as though begging me to save her. She is no longer able to ask me for help, though. Or even call my name.
どう？
Well, Saya asks, her eyes shining with anticipation. Do you like her? I am at a loss for how to respond. What do you mean, like her?
だってふみのり友達や家族が欲しいって言ってたでしょ。だからこれはさやからのプレゼント。
You said you wanted family and friends, didn't you? That's why I got you this present. Her innocent explanation only confuses me
プ
further.
レゼントって。おいおい。
Present?
他
Come
何か頼
on.
まんし。
She's not a dog.
似たようなもんだよ。どうせ頭の中なんて真っ白なんだから。
There's not much difference. Her head is totally empty. Does that mean I'm a dog? I'm happy that Saya wants to please me, but she could use a little more common sense.
人間一人を監禁し続けるっていうのは多分かなり厄介なもんだと思うよ。
It's not that. Holding a person captive is probably a lot harder than you think.
大丈夫だよ。ほら、こうやって鎖でつないであるし。
Don't worry about it. Look, I have her chained up. The only thing preventing Yo from being totally naked is the leather collar around her neck. I have no idea where Saya got it from, but it's the kind of dog collar that would be sold at any pet store. The chrome chain is fastened to one of the bedposts. Yo tries to get away again, but Saya sends her sprawling with a tug of the chain. Yo tumbles to the floor, squealing in pain. Her actions are those of an unintelligent animal, just as Saya said.
それにこの
She got that dog in her.
どっちみち逃げ出して何かしようとか、そういう難しいことはもうできないから。
She doesn't have the brains to escape or get help.
これでもうふみのりが心配することなんてないでしょ。
See? There's nothing in it for you to worry about. Saya has a point. I was racking my brain for a plan to kill Yo, but now my problem has been solved in a way I could never have imagined. If a normal person looks upon her now, they'll probably see no trace of the old Yo. And if she has no memories and can't even speak, then it's perfect. Saya has killed Yo without taking her life. And look, Kai, we got a new puppy. Though there's still the problem of what she means by giving Yo to me.
嬉しくない？
You're not happy? Saya asked dejectedly, her confidence suddenly gone.
私、また何か勘違いしてた？ふみのりのこと困らせちゃった？
Did I misunderstand again? Is this a problem for you?
いや、
No, but
この子の世話はちゃんと私が一人でやるよ。ふみのりにめんどくさい思いなんてさせないよ。それでもダメ？
I can take care of her all by myself. I won't let her make things difficult for you. So can she stay, please? That's not it. The last thing I want to reject is this symbol of Saya's affection. But how can I explain to Saya why I'm not trying to look at the naked man writhing on the floor?
そういうことじゃない。違うんだ。
It's not that. Yo is the first human figure besides Saya that I've seen in 3 months since the incident, and she's a woman. A woman positively glowing with voluptuous feminine beauty. Of course, I'm happy, but I also can't ignore the voice of reason that's telling me not to be.
嬉しいよ。嬉しいんだけど、素直に喜んでいいのかどうか。さやのことを思うとさ。
I'm happy, really. But if I show how pleased I am, I'm worried that you'll... Huh? Saya looks puzzled, as though she has absolutely no idea what I'm getting at.
だってほら、この子だって女の子だからさ。
I mean, look, she's still a girl, right?
僕がさやの他に別の女の子と一緒に暮らすっていうのは嫌じゃないのか。
Don't you balk at the thought of me living with another girl? After considering this briefly, Saya seems to finally understand what I'm trying to say.
そんな海のりって考えすぎだよ。
Of course not. You worry too much. Maybe I am worrying too much, although I'm pretty sure that I'm just showing the consideration that any man who's sworn his love to a woman would show. Or maybe Saya doesn't understand that a man faced with a woman's naked body can help but react regardless of his feelings.
おかしい。本当に優しいんだね、海のりって。
How funny. You really are kind.
そうか。
Yeah.
この子はね、海のりのこと喜ばすためだけにさやが用意したの。
I only did this so that she can please
海
you.
のりがこの子のこと好きになって、この子と過ごすのを楽しいって思うようになってくれたら、それだけさやも嬉しいんだよ。
If you like her and enjoy spending time with her, then I'll be happy too.
それ遠慮するようなことじゃないよ。
You have nothing to be shy about.
こう言っちゃなんだが。
I hate to say this, but I struggle to find the right words to express my true
男って
feelings.
その
Men are
ものすごく下劣な
really
生き物だ
depraved
から。
creatures. And
ほら、イオの体ってさやの裸とはまた全然違う特徴があるだろう。
Neil's body has features yours doesn't, right?
これって
So,
さやのこと好きだって思う気持ちとは全然別のところで、その
you know, it's nothing like my love for you. I can't help but get aroused. With each word that I squeeze from my lips, Saya's grin grows wider and wider until she finally starts shaking in laughter.
わかるわかる。海のりは男の子だからそれでいいの。正常な本能だよ。
Yo, she really... Hold on, words. She really went like this, though. I know. Saya exclaims jovially, patting my shoulder in one hand and wiping tears from her eye with the other. There's no reason to be ashamed of your natural male
いい
instincts.
のか。
Are you sure? I ask again as though trying to force her to say no. Saya answers me with a smile like whose I've never seen before. It is so calm, so terribly calm. And there's something bewitching about the soft set of her lips that sets it apart from her usual bright, childish
海
expression.
のりとさやは恋人同士。で、つくばようはそんな二人のペット。
You and I are lovers, and Tsukaba-yo is our pet.
この子は私と海のりに可愛がられるたびにそのことを思い出すの。これから毎日ずーっとね。
She'll be reminded of that when we play with her, every day, from now on. I finally know why Saya chose Yo, for the venom in her voice and smile does not escape me. Although she can no longer answer, if asked. Yo would have chosen death over this fate, and that is the very reason Saya visited upon her. How wicked and terrible Saya is. Perhaps others would fear and loathe her. I, however, find her malevolence irresistibly charming. Same. The horrifying cruelty of what she has done to Yo is so very human. Though her shape may be different, her soul is the same as ours. When I looked upon Yo's wretched form, I see the intensity and passion of Saya's love for me. For the flames that have consumed Yo are fueled by that very love. I find myself enthusiastically accepting Saya's
サヤ
present.
は気に入ってるのかいこのペットのこと。
Do you like this pet too?
とっても綺麗で触り心地もいいんだよ。
Yeah, she's very pretty and feels good to touch.
そうか。じゃあ二人でこいつと遊ぶときもサヤはサヤで楽しめるんだね。僕が遠慮することはないね。
So you'll enjoy playing with her too, right? I don't have to hold back, do I?
もちろん。
Of course I will. Grinning happily, Saya grabs the chain and pulls Yo to her feet.
ねえ海のり触ってごらんよ。柔らかくて気持ちいいよ。
Try touching her, Kuminoni. She's really nice and soft. Okay. As Yo looks up at me with teary, pleading eyes, I approach and let my gaze roam freely over her lush body and ripe breasts. I run my fingers through her hair, finding it as smooth as Saya's. Enjoying the feeling, I continue to caress Yo's head. Her fearful expression softens a little. Perhaps she remembers me in some part of her mind and believes even now that I will be kind to her. How foolish. I keep stroking her hair and calmly seize both of her breasts. She flinches in pain at the sudden rough treatment, but I ignore her and continue to knead her breasts as my lust demands. They're incredibly soft. When I squeeze them, it's like my fingers are being sucked inside. Yeah. The tears in Yo's eyes cause a new sadistic desire to well up within me. Yeah, you got alerted at the right time. She must have not been sufficiently prepared, as her choked scream is that of a dying animal. In fact, it reminds me of how Suzumi screamed when I stabbed him with my knife. It looks painful, Saya says, peering curiously at Mio's tear-streaked face.
気持ちいいこの子。
Is she pleasing to you?
まあ
You could say that. The hypnotic quivering of her thighs as she trembles beneath me. Her breasts heaving like storm-tossed ships. These sights and sensations are enough to stimulate my basest lusts, and the night has only just begun. Later, as I lie on my bed drained of energy, I consider what my life will be like from now on. Saya is resting in my arms. Yo is curled up on the floor. Yesterday, I could not have imagined that the three of us would be a family. A new home, new food, a new family, all granted to me by Saya. She selflessly led me from the brink of death to find new joy amid despair. And I, too, have changed. I have killed 2 people with my own hands, and a third my mindless slave. Yet despite all that I have done, I am still able to sleep peacefully. Without a doubt, I am no longer the Sakisaka Fuminori I once was. How far will Saya take me? What will I become? I feel somewhat unsure, though not discouraged about the unknown world which we are heading. And so, while playing with Saya's hair, I ask,
君は一体何者なんだい
Saya, what are you? I don't expect an answer. If Saya's asleep or doesn't want to respond, I don't mind. Saya lifts up her head, however, and draws my gaze into the deep pools of her eyes.
うまく言葉では説明しにくいんだけどね。
It's kind of hard to explain. She thinks for a while, searching for the right words, and then says
タン
simply,
ポポって花があるよね。種を風に乗せて飛ばすやつ。
You know the dandelion flower? Then it scatters its seeds on the wind? Yeah?
綿毛の種は風に運ばれて、ふるさとから遠く遠く離れて、
The wind carried those fluffy seeds far from where they are
もし
born.
かしたら草木なんか一本も生えてない砂漠に落ちちゃうかもしれない。
What if one of them ends up in a desert where not even a single blade of
そ
grass
ん
is
な時、
growing?
たっ った一粒のその種が何を思うか。
If you can imagine how that long scene will
それを
feel,
想像してくれれば分かってもらえるかもしれない。私のこと。
then you might be able to understand me. As I consider Saya's answer, she continues her story.
種はもちろん草の種だからね。その気になって頑張れば砂漠を砂漠じゃなくしてしまえる。
That seed is still a baby flower. If it does its best, it can even turn a desert into a
た
garden.
だ一粒だけの種でももしかしたら頑張ろうって思うようになるかもしれない。
Maybe that little seed will decide to thrive.
頑張って育って増えて、いつかこの土地が一面のタンポポ畑になるまで頑張ろうってそう思うかもしれない。
Maybe it will decide to grow and multiply so that it can turn the whole desert into a field of
そんな風に
dandelions.
タンポポの種が心を決めるとしたらどんな時だと思う？
What do you think can give it the strength to do so? What? I whisper, entranced. Saya smiles softly and caresses my
そ
cheek.
れはね、その砂漠にたった一人だけでも花を愛してくれる人がいるって知った時、
All it needs is to be loved by just one person in the whole desert.
タンポポの花は綺麗だねって種に話しかけてくれた時、
All it needs to be told is how pretty dandelions are. The loving touch of her slender fingers fill me with peace and
あ
joy.
なたのこと大好き。
I pull her into my chest, nodding silently.
ずっとそばにいて、いつまでも私の隣に。
Stay with me forever. Never leave my side.
ああ、もちろん。
I promise. Basking in the soft warmth of our love for each other, we sink into the oblivion of sleep. He has been buried alive. His world is the silence and the cold of the grave. Ever since his voice gave out and he lost his strength to scream, no coherent thought has passed through Koji's mind. Perhaps this is the brain's way of protecting him from despair. Instead, he dreams. Images flash before his eyes, random unconnected scenes from his 20 years of life. Not all are happy times. There are sad, painful memories as well, but even these are pleasantly warm compared to the death that is now encroaching upon him. He dreams of the mountains. His older brother once took him hunting for insects when he was a child. They sealed their caught butterflies in a plastic bag, only later to find themselves holding a bag of tiny corpses. He dreams of his lover. They met at a mixer, where he'd been the only one to realize that she couldn't hold her liquor. After she had too much to drink, he looked after her while she vomited in the back alley. They toasted each other with canned juice then. He dreams that he is diving into a black sea. When he reaches the bottom, he looks up to see that the moon is shining through the surface of the water. As he gazes up at the circle of light, entranced by his roundness and brilliance, the distant rumbling of an engine reaches his ears. Something still conscious within him tells him that this dream is wrong. Have I gone diving at night before? The dots begin to connect in his mind, forming a barrier to separate his dreams from reality. What is bothering him? Of course, the sound. The engine noise gradually fades to slow idling, then abruptly gives way to silence, followed by the sound of a door opening and closing. This isn't a dream. These sounds are real. Understanding comes like a sudden blow. This isn't the bottom of the sea, and that circle of light isn't the moon. It's the mouth of a well. The sun has already risen and someone is right outside with a car. The last piece falls into place, and he becomes Tono Koji once more. Koji shouts, surprised by how easily his voice emerges. His desperation blocks out the pain of his raw throat. Help! I'm down here in the well! Help me! He keeps screaming with all his might. Soon the echoes in the cramped wall become deafening, and he is no longer certain if his screams have meaning or if he is just howling wordlessly. Nevertheless, he continues. His only desire is to be heard, lest he die forgotten at the bottom of this well. Koji's wait is not long, but even a minute feels like an eternity on the edge of despair. Soon, the circle of light above him is partially eclipsed by the silhouette of a person staring down into the well. Don't know. You alive down there? A woman's voice. Koji has heard it somewhere before, but for some reason cannot remember to whom it belongs. Just hold on. I'll get you out. The silhouette vanishes, restoring the light to a perfect circle. Fear of being left alone again threatens to send Koji into a panic, but his reason has recovered enough to resist. She said she's going to get me out. I haven't been abandoned. While waiting, he gingerly tests his body, which he had forgotten all about until now. His joints ache, and his fingers and toes are numb, but though exhausted, he's still in one piece. After some time, the silhouette reappears at the top of the wall. That you heard. Can you climb a rope on your own? No, I don't think so. Koji lacks the confidence to attempt such a feat. His frozen fingers can barely move. Oh well, I'm coming down. After a brief pause, the owner of the voice tosses a non-climbing rope into the well. He grabs the rope as soon as it reaches him. The rough thread bites into his palm, and relief nearly overwhelms him at the sensation. This is really happening. He's really safe. Now that he's free from despair, questions leap to the forefront of his mind. First among them, who is his savior? The rope shakes as the woman climbs carefully down the beam, from the floodlight slung over her shoulder, pushing back the shadow cast by her body. Soon as she is standing in the same mud as Koji, and he finds himself face to face with.
Sensei.
Were you expecting someone else? Koji indeed had not imagined that his savior would turn out to be Dr. Tanbo Ryoko. Of course, it took him a moment to recognize her. Instead of the white gown and tight skirt, she is wearing a heavy leather coat, denim jeans, and boots with no heel. She must have expected a hike through the mountains. Her light is a blocky all-purpose type, featuring side-mounting fluorescent earners in addition to the main floodlight. Survival gear and professional grade by the look of it. You look awful. Dr. Tanba says rightly as she gives Koji a voiceover. Here, drink this. She pulls out a flask of her pocket and hands it to him. Go slow. Take small sips. It should help a little. She rocks around with the flask. Maybe Koji's just old-fashioned, but it doesn't seem appropriate for a young woman, and a doctor at that. Nevertheless, he unscrews the cap and takes a swig, and struggles to keep from coughing as the potent liquid sears his tongue. What is this? Spiritus vodka, good for disinfecting wounds in a pinch, and also does a fine job of setting things on fire. Her tone is straightforward and quite serious. Only Koji can only gape at the doctor, the dark smile on her face doing little to ease his confusion. Is this really Dr. Tanbo? There's no trace of the bookish, mild-mannered woman Koji met at the hospital. Her expression is now set in a hard mask, and her eyes are sharp and wary. In the darkness of the bottom of the well, it is possible, however unlikely, that the change in her features is due to the ominous shadows cast by her lamp. It's not so easy, however, to explain the change in her demeanor. Why are you here? You called me, didn't you? Ryoko replies brusquely, glaring at Koji like an annoyed professor. I tried calling back, but you didn't answer. Neither did your friend Tsukaba. Am I supposed to think everything is fine? No, but Koji still doesn't understand why she acted so quickly. But it's a different part of what she just said that seizes his attention. Wait, Tsukaba? You called her too?
したよ。君と一緒でつながらない。正直なところ、私はてっきり君も死体になってるもんだと思ってたんだがね。
Like I said, she didn't pick up either. To be honest, I figured you were both dead already. That's right. He almost died, and at the hands of the man he thought was his best friend. Anger and frustration well up inside of him. He can't forgive Fuminori's betrayal, nor can he forgive himself for his foolishness. And now he has no idea if Tsukama is safe. Fuminori tried to kill Kochi. Could he have done the same to her?
まあ落ち着け。ここで君がいくら先だって見たところで始まらん。
Calm down, why don't you? Ryoko says irritably, turning away to examine the inside of the wall. There's nothing you can do from here.
何かあったと思ったのなら警察には届けてくれたんですか?
If you thought something was wrong, Koji said to her back, then you must have called the police, right?
警察だと?
The police? Still engrossed in their examination of the walls, Ryoko laughed scornfully at the idea.
君はまだそういう形で蹴りがつけられるものだと思っているわけか。
So you still think that's the way out, do you?
どういう意味です?
What's that supposed to mean? Annoyed by her condescending attitude, Koji's about to demand answers, when she cuts him off with a gesture and shines a light in the corner of the well.
こいつには気づかなかったのか?
You didn't notice this? Huh? In the light of the lamp, Koji sees that some of the stones are a different shade than the rest of the wall. This must be what Ryoko was looking for.
気づきませんでした。ずっと真っ暗だったんで。
Huh? No, there wasn't enough light. Ryoko gaze moves slowly across the wall, finally coming to rest upon a gap between two of the stones. The hole is just wide enough for an adult to reach into open-handed.
君、いいところに落ちてくれたよ。ひょうたんから困ってやつか?
You sure picked the right well to fall down, Ryoko says with a grim smile. Like they say, it's always the last place you look. She wastes no time thrusting her hand into the opening. After she feels around for a few seconds, Koji hears the thunk of something solid coming together behind the wall. Ryoko pulls her hand out and gives the different colored stones a gentle push. With the rumbling of weight shifting, the stones slide smoothly back into the wall.
こういう仕掛けか。やられたよ。前に来た時は気づきもしなかった。
So that's how he fooled me. I had no idea this was here the last time I came.
前にも来た?
You've been here before? Koji wants answers, but Ryoko ignores him and peers into the opening. In the beam of her full light, Koji can see a concrete tunnel leading into the mountain.
私は先に進むが、殿君。
I'm going on ahead. You better stay here. Their morning is utterly devoid of warmth. Considering his options, Koji looks from the tunnel to the rope and back again. He's practically sweating now, thanks to the 190 proof vodka he just drank. And although the feeling has returned to his fingers, he still doesn't have the strength to climb. That said, the thought of being alone in the wall again makes him shiver. I'll go too. Please take me with you.
まあ好きにしろ。
Have it your way. Ryoko steps into the tunnel without looking back, and Koji doesn't hesitate to follow.
前にお会いした時と随分雰囲気が違いますね。
You were pretty different last time we met, Koji says sarcastically, following Ryoko as she moves cautiously down the tunnel with her light leading the way.
ここは病院じゃない。君は患者じゃない。営業スマイルが必要か?
This isn't the hospital, and you're not my patient. This service is a come with a smile.
こっちが先生の字ですか?
So, this is who you really are?
さあ、どうだかな。
I
どう
wonder.
だっていいことだろ。
Doesn't matter. Ryoko suddenly stops and stares at the floor. When Koji looks over her shoulder, he sees a dust-covered rope lying coiled up in the middle of the path. What is it?
あの井戸から降りてきたやつの小細工さ。
Something left by the last guy who came down that wall. Ryoko picks up the rope, examines it, and hands it to Koji.
長さは私が使ったロープのほぼ2倍。
Yeah, right? She's so badass outside of work.
端は両方とも切断されてる。この両端がつながって輪になってたのさ。
It's about twice as long as my rope. It has a knot in it, and both ends have been severed. They were connected before to make a circle. Huh?
外のどこかにこの輪を引っ掛けて、 井戸の底まで伝って降りる。
You loop one end of the circle around something topside and then use the rest to climb down into the well.
ナイフで輪を切って井戸の中に引っ張り込めば、井戸の底に降りた痕跡は残らない。
When you're at the bottom, you cut the circle open and pull the whole rope in with you. That way, there's nothing to show where you went. Ryoko shines her light down the tunnel, revealing that it ends in a closed wooden door about 10 meters
こう
ahead.
やってここに逃げ込んだやつは追っ手の目をくらませたのさ。
That's how we avoided detection.
まんまと騙された。
Really got me good.
先生、さっき前にも来たっていうのは
You said you've been here before.
ああ、君や咲坂君だけじゃない。私も以前、王外を追ってこの別荘に来た。
Yeah, you and Sakisaka aren't the only ones, Ryoko says dryly. I checked Okai's cabin a while ago. Yo. As Ryoko speaks, she opens her coat and pulls out what she said she had hanging underneath
他に
it.
出口がないとしたら、奴はまだあの扉の向こう側にいるわけだ。
If there aren't any other exits, then he's still behind that door. At first, Koji thinks she's holding a steel pipe. Amazed that she would be carrying a weapon, Koji looks closer and is appalled when he realizes what it really is. Yeah, and a gun like this too? How did she get that gun? And not one of those sleek handguns that he's seen in the movies, but a double-barreled shotgun. The stock and barrels have been sawed down for easier concealment, enhancing its aura of brutal efficiency.
何ですかそれ
What is that?
ショットガン、12番口径。
The 12 gauge. Ryoko replies blandly as though naming a brand of
私
cigarettes.
にはこいつを持ち歩く資格なんてないし、こんな風に改造するのも銃刀法違反だ。他に質問は？
I don't have a permit, and cutting it down would be illegal if I did. Any other questions?
そんなもの持ち出して一体どうするつもりです
Well, what are you planning to do with that thing? Ryoko looks over her shoulder and gives Koji her most chilling smile yet.
王外の正体を初めて知った時、私はただの善良な一般市民だった。交通違反すら無縁のね。
When I first learned what Ogai was doing, I was a model citizen. Never even gotten a ticket. That woman, whom Koji believes just a normal doctor, waves her sawed-off shotgun menacingly as she continues, her tone sharp and
あ
bitter.
の時にこいつがあったなら、私は多分王外をきっちり殺せていただ。
If I had this back then, I could have killed Ogai before he got
そ
away.
うなってれば、もしかしたら君たちがこんな災難に巻き込まれることもなかったかもしれない。その点は申し訳ないと思ってるよ。
If I had this back then, I could have killed Ogai before he got away. Maybe none of this would have happened. I feel bad about that, really. Koji listens in silence, helpless to do anything but watch, as understanding moves farther and farther out of his grasp.
だから、これから私がやることは一切合切。君とその友達が足を突っ込んでる泥沼のありさまを終わらせてやるための手続きだ。
In other words, everything I do from here on out is to clean up this mess that you and your friends have
その
stepped
辺
in.
をよく理解して、余計な口は突っ込まないこと。
Remember that, and don't ask any unnecessary questions. Got it? Koji can only nod weakly in response. With the light in her left hand and shotgun in her right, Ryoko walks up to the door and takes a deep breath. Then she kicks the door open and, putting her full weight behind the blow. With a disappointingly feeble sound, the door breaks off its hinges and falls into the room. Dust billows like white smoke in the beam of Ryoko's light. The room is large, at least 35 meters square. The top floor is set with drainage gates, and there's no mistaking that the operating table is sitting in the middle of the room. Cabinets full of enamelware and drugs line one side of the space, and against the opposite wall stands a writing desk and bookshelves. Those things, Kochi recognizes, the mysterious objects cluttering the tables and shelves, however, are beyond his comprehension. Mirrors delicately engraved with complex patterns, grotesque statues and masks that must have been left by a race of savages. Tapestries woven in nauseating arrays of color, a crystal ball the size of an infant's head. Annie would fetch a hefty price in an antique store, if not for the one thing they all have in common, Every last piece is so loathsome and foul that Koji feels sick just looking at it. It's though each was designed for the sole sinister purpose of immortalizing its creator's hatred of the world. Rare-looking books of the sort that he found in Ogai's home are piled here and there, and on one shelf are stacked some scrolls that look to be made of some kind of sheepskin or papyrus. Whatever it is, it's not paper. Finally, there are the indecipherable chalk patterns and symbols filling every available space on the walls. Even the 2 sliding blackboards are covered in strange, unreadable scribblings. Just looking at them is making Koji dizzy.
見るんじゃない。
Don't look. Ryoko snaps at him.
いいか、ここから動く。
Listen, don't move,
絶対に何か
and
に触
whatever
った
you
りする
do,
な。目を引くようなものがあ
don't
って
touch anything.
見つめたりしちゃいけない。
Even if it's something draws your attention, don't look
ま
at
ずい
it.
と思ったらすぐに目をそらして自分の靴を見る。わかった。
If you see something that feels wrong, stare at your shoes. Got it? Yeah, I got my manuscript right here. I've got all pages. Got the last one here. Yeah. Ryoko switches her lights fluorescent runners on and sets it on a nearby table where she can illuminate the whole room. She then holsters her shotgun, only to pull out an even more confusing set of tools. A digital camera and a can of spray paint. She gives the can in her hand a good shake, switches the camera in her right hand on, and steps up to the blackboard while looking at the camera side mounted screen. After recording one set of symbols, she covers it with a thick layer of paint and moves on to the next.
先生、
Doctor?
レッスン1。妙な図形やラテン語の文章とかは絶対に読むな。見つめるな。
Lesson 1. Never look at strange symbols or read anything written in unusual languages like Latin.
機械の目で記録しておいて、後で注意深く調べればいい。現物はその場で塗りつぶすか何かして破壊しろ。
Use a camera to record them for later and paint over the original. Now that she mentioned it, Koji realizes that she's only looking through the screen of her camera. Even then, only in short glimpses, and never directly at any of the drawings. He understands what she's saying, but it still doesn't make any
一体どう
sense.
いう
Why do you have
こ
to?
こまで深入りしたんなら、高額
Now
の
that
た
you've
めに
come
黙
this
って聞い
far,
ておけ。
you'd better shut up and listen for your own good.
あと、水晶球とか鏡の類も危ない。下手に壊すとやぶ蛇になったりするから、とりあえず布でもかぶせるか、ペンキを浴びせて封印しろ。
Things like crystal balls and mirrors are dangerous. Anything can happen if you break them, so it's best to cover them with a cloth or paint over them for the time being. Koji fears that this doctor might be crazier than Fuminori. Despite the burst of energy he received from the vodka, Koji is still exhausted from his night in the well. The fear is affecting his body, making him dizzy and nauseous. Soon, the walls are covered in black paint and the stale air is thick with the smell of
と
turpentine.
りあえず、こんなところか。
That should do for now. Ryoko says in relief, then tosses the empty can inside and puts away her video
オーガイ
camera.
って人はどうなったんです
What happened to a guy? Koji asks, supporting himself against a nearby table.
ああ、そこにいたよ。
Hmm? Oh, he was over there. Without stopping her examination of the papers on the writing table, Ryoko points nonchalantly to a Chinese-style screen standing in one corner of the room. He was there. Her clinical choice of tense makes her meaning instantly obvious. The urge to see for himself is irresistible. Koji staggers across the room to the screen, taking the utmost care to not look at the scaly octopus thing that is painted on it. Behind the screen is a large easy chair. Although he's never met the man before, Koji is fairly certain that the person sitting in it is Ogai Masahiko. I'm dead. For real. Ogai's corpse must have shrunk significantly while drying in this sealed chamber. The body is barely the size of a child's, with only the business suit hanging from the bones offering any hint of Ogai's former stature. Ain't no way. His empty eye sockets and open jaw are filled with darkness. The same darkness that surrounded Koji at the bottom of the well. Compared to those gaping voids, the tiny hole in Ogai's right temple is almost a mirror. The revolver that he had presumably used to kill himself is still clenched in his dangling right hand. It looks like a child's toy compared to Ryoko's shotgun. He's been mewing almost? Of course, right before he perished, of course. Ryoko must have noticed Ogai's corpse while she was spray painting the walls, and still she kept working without batting an eyelash. Impressive, though not exactly surprising after what he's been through. It's getting difficult to remember the last time he spoke to someone sane. He made sure to finish mewing before he ending it on a good note. But if not for her, Koji reminds himself with a bitter smirk. He would have ended up joining this mummified corpse here, and no one would ever have found them. Koji's vision suddenly dims. He pushed himself too hard, and the spirit of Spotty can't help him anymore. He collapses to the floor, unable to hold on to his slipping consciousness, and the last thing he sees are Ogai and Masahiko's gaping eye sockets staring at him. When he wakes, Koji finds himself lying on something dry and soft. A bed is a bed, he thinks to himself, and even one that smells of mold and dust, and especially after sleeping in the cold mud all night. There are no lights hanging from the ceiling, but the soft warm light of a lamp fills the room. Simple furnishings, non-existent decor. Koji realizes that he's in Ogai's cabin, in the bedroom that he searched before Fuminori pushed him into the well. You awake? Ryoko is sitting in a chair against the wall, her expression blank as she studies through the pile of documents on the table in front of her. She must have brought them up from Ogai's underground lab. How did she carry him up the well? She's so strong, what? She turns a page and then takes a bite from the sandwich in her free hand. If you feel up to eating, there's food over there. Not looking up from the files, he gestures towards a convenience store bag sitting on the nightstand. How did I get here? Koji can't imagine that a woman, even a woman like Ryoko, could have climbed out of the well with him on her back. There was a door behind one of the bookshelves down there, Ryoko mutters, taking care not to let the explanation interfere with her reading or eating. When I finally got it open, it led into the boiler room underneath the cabin. The other side was hidden with a thin layer of mortar. Oh. Secret door. I figured that's how he got most of his supplies down there. Once he had everything he needed, he could seal it up and use the well inside. Pretty thorough. Was there really something in there that he needed to hide? There used to be. This is the last of it. Having finished her sandwich, Ryoko picks up some unsorted papers with her free hand and waves them into the air. Not all scholars want to get on the stage at a symposium and show their research to the world, you know. Some nutcases get their kicks by learning secrets no one else knows, and by being buried with those secrets in hidden tombs that no one will ever find. Koji still hasn't had the slightest idea what Ogai's secret might have been. From what Ryoko said in the tunnel, however, he can guess that Fuminori is somehow involved. What happened to Fuminori? Koji asks desperately, no longer caring who he gets his answers from. What does he have to do with that body down there? Just what is it that you're after? That's what I'm trying to find out. Ryoko replies calmly, as though Koji's concerns are none of hers.
私が咲坂君から聞いたところによると、彼は王外の親族から調査を頼まれているという話だった。
Sakisaka told me that he was acting on behalf of one of Ogai's relatives.
それは俺も聞いてます。
Yes, he told me the same thing.
そうか、一貫してるんだな。
Oh, well, at least that's consistent. Ryoko pulls several sheets of loose leaf paper from a different
だ
file.
が王外に血縁者はいない。私は咲坂君が嘘をついているものとばかり思っていた。
The truth is that Ogai has no relatives. I thought that Sakisaka was simply lying.
もう一つの可能性を考えるべきだった。
However, there was another
王
possibility
外
I
の
should have
親族を
considered.
名乗る何者かにそそのかされていたのかもしれない。
He might have been tricked by someone claiming to be Ogai's family. Ryoko pauses and then looks sidelong at Koji.
サヤという名前に心当たりは？
Does the name Saya ring a bell?
さや
Saya.
誰なんですか？
No, who is that?
さて誰なのか何なのか、読めば読むほどわからなくなっていく。
Who or what is the question, but the more I read, the less I understand. She sighs bitterly, then returns her attention to the papers in her
間
hand.
違いなく言えるのは、そいつが王外の研究の核にあるものらしいということだけだ。
All I can say for sure is that it appears to have been the focus of Ogai's
も
research.
し咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら、彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいるということになる。
If Sakisaka is involved in whatever Saya is, and he's already past the point of no return. The icy certainty in Ryoko's voice sends a chill down Koji's
だとし
spine.
たらどうするつもりなんです？文則を。
If so, then what will you do? He has to ask, even though he already knows the
さ
answer.
っきも言ったよね。1年前の私も手元に銃を持ってればってどれだけ後悔したか知れないんだ。
It's like I said, Ryoko replies, smirking at the tension in Koji's voice. I have no idea how many times I've wished I'd kill Ogai when I had the chance.
もう二度と後悔するつもりはない。
I won't make the same mistake twice.
俺が警察に行けば済むことです。
If I go to the police, it'll all be over. Ryoko doesn't respond, as though she didn't even hear what Koji just
文
said.
則がやったことは殺人未遂です。俺が訴えれば、あいつは犯罪者として。
Fuminori tried to kill me, Koji continues persistently. If I report him, he'll be arrested and...
目撃者は、物証は、咲坂君が君を殺す動機は？
Ryoko cuts him harshly. You have witnesses? Proof? What was Sakisaka's motive?
なあ、トノ君。君は警察の仕事についてひどく勘違いしている。
You know, Tono, you're completely misunderstanding what the
彼
police
らの
do.
職分は正義を貫くことでも、市民の安全を守ることでもない。
Their job isn't to fight for justice or even to keep people safe.
そんな。
What are you saying?
不条理な物事について、きちんと条理に沿った体裁を整える。これが警察っていう役所の仕事だ。
Finding reasonable explanations for unreasonable events. That's what the police are
彼
for.
らの思考はいつだってより理解しやすい方、より説明しやすい方に傾いていく。
They will always choose to believe the simplest, most logical
それこそ
explanation.
水が低い方へ低い方へと流れていくように。
Just like how water always flows
事
downhill.
実がどうあろうと彼らには興味ない。彼らが感知するところではないんだよ。小説より奇なる事実なんてものは。
They aren't interested in the truth. They don't know or care that the truth is often stranger than
そ
fiction.
こまで決めつけることないでしょう。話してみなければわかりませんよ。
They can't all be like that. I won't know until I try.
そう、わからない。そこが問題だ。
Exactly. Ryoko states as she pulls another sandwich out of the bag. That's the problem. She hasn't spared Koji a second glance since looking at him earlier. Even while talking, her attention is always focused on the papers in front of her.
君が錯乱した親友の手で井戸に落とされたと主張する。
Let's say you accuse your friend of pushing you into a well.
すると、警察はあと2つばかり真実の候補を用意するだろう。 君が狂言自殺で親友を陥れようとしてるとか。
Say you accuse your friend of pushing into a well. In addition to your statement, the police will consider 2 alternate versions of the truth. Maybe you're making it up all to frame your
あ
friend.
るいはもっとシンプルに、事故で井戸に落ちた君が錯乱して親友を疑ってるとか。
Or even simpler, it was an accident. You fell into the well by yourself, and the shock has made you paranoid and
この
delusional.
3案のどれかが操作っていうレースで勝ちを競うわけだ。勝ち馬は誰にもわからない。
These 3 possibilities will compete to see which comes out to be the most convincing evidence. No one knows which will be the
こんな
winner.
博打に君は寝台潰すまでかける気かい？
Are you willing to bet everything you have on your truth? Koji has no response. Can he really explain with cold, clear logic what drove Fuminori to do what he did? How can he convince anyone else when he doesn't even understand it
そして
himself?
一番の問題は
And here's the biggest problem. Ryoko says calmly, cutting into Koji's
君
thoughts.
がそういうランチキ騒ぎに手こずっている隙に先坂文則を追い詰めるチャンスを逃すことだよ。
While you're racing hell with the police, you'll lose your chance to corner
身辺
Sakisaka.
で火の手が上がれば彼は手遅れになる前にさっさと姿をくらますだろう。そうやってまた万事が振り出しに戻る。
If he sees trouble coming, he'll go into hiding, and then we'll be right back at square one. She pauses to take a bite of her sandwich before finishing,
私が鴎外を取り逃がしたようにね。
just like when I let Ogai get away. A heavy silence falls upon them, with only the soft rustle of pages turning in Ryoko's hands to mark the passage of
教
time.
えてくださいよ先生。
Please tell me, Doctor. Koji says, his harsh voice breaking through the
あ
quiet.
なたが警察を差し置いてまで処刑しようなんて思うほど、そこまで許しがたいことって何なんです？
What
鴎外って
crime
人は
is so
あの地
unforgivable
下室で何をやってたんです
that
か？
you're determined to take justice into your own hands? What exactly did Ogai do with that room down there? Once again, Ryoko ignores Koji's confusion this time. This time, however, Koji doesn't back down. His silent glare demands her attention as she pores through the documents before her. After some time, Ryoko rearranges the papers in her hands and sets them aside, as though coming to some conclusion. She then turns her chair to face Koji for the first time since he awoke.
なあ、殿君。
Listen, Tono. Her hard stare belies the calmness of her
君
voice.
はここいら辺で降りた方がいい。ナスカ日光の温泉でゆっくり羽を伸ばして、何もかも忘れる気になってから東京に戻ってきなさい。
You need to get out of this while you still can. There are a lot of hot springs around here. Go relax and don't return to Tokyo until you're ready to forget any of this ever happened.
忘れろと。
Forget? Koji feels anger rise within him.
近江は俺の恋人でした。文則は俺の親友でした。それを忘れろと。
Omi was my girlfriend, and Fuminori was my best friend, and you're telling me to forget about them?
そうだ、忘れろ。これは提案じゃない。警告だ。
Yeah, forget about them, Ryoko replies, coolly rebuffing Koji's anger. This isn't a suggestion, it's a warning.
今まではどうであれ。これからの君の人生に、その二人は一切関わりを持たないだろう。断言してもいい。
Whatever they were to you, that's all over now. You'll never see them again, I guarantee
じ
it.
ゃあ筑波は。
Then, what about Tsukaba? Koji shouts, unable to control
彼
himself.
女はどうなる？あの子は電話口で俺に助けを求めてた。どこかでひどい目に遭わされてたんだ。
She begged me for help while on the phone. Something terrible was happening to her.
そりゃ何十時間前の話かね。
And how many hours ago was that?
私が君を助けてから何時間経ったと思う？そうでなければ、井戸の中の君があと何時間持ったと思う？
Do you know how much time has passed since I saved you? How much longer do you think you would have lasted down there if I hadn't? She shakes her head and declares coldly,
彼女はとっくに死んでるだろう。誰もが君ほど幸運だなんて思わない方がいい。
It's too late. She's already dead. Don't expect everybody to be as lucky as you.
あんたは
You heartless. Koji growls, unable to suppress his
あの井
anger.
戸で俺の死体を見つけても、あんたなんとも思わなかったんだろうな。
If you thought me dead in that well, you wouldn't have thought anything of it, would you?
そりゃ覚悟してたからね。まさか生きてるとは思わなかったよ。
I was prepared for that, of course. Ryoko says with a shrug, unfazed by Koji's ire. I hardly expected to find you alive. It is futile to argue with this woman, Koji realizes. Her values are fundamentally different from his own. Nothing he can say will ever move her. Koji gets out of bed and stands on shaky
ど
legs.
のくらい俺は寝てたんです。
How long have I been asleep?
ざっと半日ばかり。
About half a
消
day.
耗した後速やかに休息が取れるってのは羨ましいね。若いうちだけだよ。そういう無茶が効くのは。
I envy your ability to recover so quickly. It's a privilege of youth, so enjoy it while it lasts. Koji looks at his watch and sees that it's 4 in the morning, which means that it was already early evening when Ryoko's rescued him. He can't believe that he survived that well for almost 2 days. Now that the gaps in his memory have been filled and his sense of time has returned, he realizes that it's already Sunday morning. Ryoko is right. A lot of time has passed since he spoke to Yo on the phone. Koji grabs a sports drink and 2 jelly packs from the bag of food that Ryoko bought. Then he heads for the door. His legs are still a little unsteady, but he can compensate for that with sheer willpower.
念のため聞かせてもらうが、どこに行くつもりだい？
Just to make sure. Mind telling me where you're
東
going?
京へ。
Tokyo? Koji replies brusquely, his tone as hard as
つ
hers.
くば用はまだ間に合うかもしれない。彼女を助けに行きます。
Tsukaba might still be alive. I'm going to save her.
人の話を聞かないやつだね、君は。
You just don't listen, do you?
聞く耳持たないのはお互い様でしょ
I could say the same about you. Koji is expecting Ryoko to watch him go with that cold, mocking smile of hers. Instead, she sighs heavily and rests her jaw in her hands.
もう少し待つ気はないか。こいつのどこかに。
Can't you wait a little longer? Somewhere in here, she thrusts her chin at the mountain of papers in front
郊
of her.
外がサヤと名付けたものが何だったのか、答えが隠されてるはずだ。そいつを突き止めて、ちゃんと対策を講じてから動くべきだと私は思う。
In front of her is the answer to what this thing called Saya is. I think you should wait until I figure that out and come up with a plan to deal with it.
つくばが死んでると決めてかかってるあんたなら当然そう思うでしょうね。
You would think that, since you're already convinced that Tsukaba is dead. In truth, Koji is extremely uneasy about going about it alone. At the same time, however, he knows that he mustn't depend on Ryoko. She's made it clear that she doesn't care about saving lives. Teaming up with her will only make it more difficult to salvage anything out of this nightmare.
殿くん、
Tono. Ryoko calls just before Koji steps out of the door.
仮にも一度は殺されかかってるんだ。もう二度と殺されるな。
You almost got killed once already. Don't let it happen again. She picks something up from the table and tosses it to Koji. When Koji catches it, he feels that solid weight fill his hand.
これは
This is... Koji stares at the menacing shape of cold metal. It's the revolver, the same one that clenched in Ogai's skeletal
あと
fist.
4発入ってる。安全装置はない。引き金を引くだけで弾が出る。
It has 4 more shots. There's no safety, so just pull the trigger
ど
to
こで
fire.
どう使うかは君の判断に任せるよ。
Mm-hmm. He absolutely is. He's got the wingman. How you use it is up to you. If Koji were his usual cautious self, he would not hesitate to reject the dangerous offering. The only time you truly need a gun is when all hope is lost. He'd prefer not to fight a losing war. And yet, without it, even knowing it, Koji has already set foot into Ryoko's world. Choosing instinct over reason, he accepts the small but deadly weapon and stuffs it into his pocket. There is no question that Koji intends to save Mio and bring Fuminori to answer for his crimes. In the back of his mind, however, he can hear the footsteps of ruin approaching. When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the cold air outside is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated the cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he surely would have frozen to death. Koji finds two cars parked in the yard. The smaller car next to his must be Ryoko's. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips the sports drink, wetting his parched throat, and washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty. But he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs this energy. No matter how hard it is, he must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls on his spare cell phone out of his bag. He never expected that carrying two phones would be a stroke of luck. As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He is unable to decide what to feel towards his friend. However, there is no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider that it might have already been too late. He steels himself and presses the button, and holds the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sound seems to go on longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. Why is he letting him know? The call goes through. In the silence of the other end, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab. I lived, bitch. What? Weren't expecting a call from a dead man. I'm surprised. How did you manage it? As Koji is about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him. But there was a secret passage in the well, Koji says, a plan forming rapidly in his mind. It led to a hidden underground lab. He pauses to let that sink in. Then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says, I met Ogai Masahiko. Fuminori's gasp tells Koji that the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bone, he decides to further exaggerate the truth. I know it all. Everything about Saya. You're finished, Fuminori. I like it. I've got all the proof I need to blow this thing wide open. You won't even see it coming. You son of a bitch. It's obvious that Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response in the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that still wants to believe his friend can be saved. The Sakisaka is involved in whatever Saya is. Ryoko's voice plays in the back of his head, sounding even colder than before. Koji's cooked. He's cooking. Then he's already past the point of no return. He mustn't allow emotion to sway him. Where are Omi and Yo? Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance, and all comes down to this. Depending on your answer, I might be willing to cut you a deal. If you swear not to cause any more harm, I'll forget about what you did to me and what I found at the cabin. I don't want anything more to do with you and Sai anyways. All I want is for Omi and Yo to be safe. Omi and Yo. Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji can be trusted. and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand. I honestly don't know anything about Omi. She never came by my house. Y'all, on the other hand. Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends a chill up Koji's spine. Well, I wonder if she'll really want to leave. She's with you, isn't she? Koji's relieved to learn Neo's location and that she is, at least, still alive. In a way. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call. It is clear now that Fuminori played some part in Neo's suffering. Had she already fallen into his trap back then? What has happened to her? How is she being treated? And which finally came true. Fuminori says with venomous sarcasm. She's my property now. I guess you and Omi got what you wanted after all. Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower will this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared? Let Tsukaba go, but I'm sure she's safe. I'll destroy everything I have on you inside. How can I trust you? First, I want you to. I'm not giving you a choice here, Fuminori. Koji instinctively realizes that it's dangerous to push his bluff any further. I'll call you again later. You have until then to make up your mind. He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji sold the cabin into Tochiki. Right now, he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes that he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. Yeah, Koji is like, he locked in when he stepped out that door. 3 hours. That's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid that his body would carry him through such a long drive. His mind is clear, but his limbs are still half asleep. Like you're weighed down with lead.
Remind Nico
Although
to
he knows
raid
that he has to
gently,
stay reduced,
but firmly when it's time. Spread
But
the
firmly.
love and ensure they don't forget.
No, don't worry. Koji hasn't forgotten. And I haven't either. Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his mind. Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all of this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? And will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of weakness. For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. And when his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. I cannot believe I saw the thread on Twitter of somebody saying that they really didn't like Saya. Are you kidding me? This is good. This is good. I stare at the silent phone in my hand. There is anger, of course, but something cold and heavy holds my emotions in check. The sense of danger. I forgot who, but they said that the writing was like boring. And there was like not something like that. Maybe it's just rage bait, who knows? Even the bad ending was great too. I teared up a bit. To be honest, I'm so surprised at how calm I am. Yeah, it was good bait, especially when the Fumo was just released. Master. Nina looks up at me apprehensively, her hand between my thighs. She was attending to me throughout the call. The remaining fragments of her memory seem to have joined together, as she regained some degree of speech. Upon realizing this last night, Saya began to teach her language once more. I assume she finds our pet's efforts amusing.
怒らないでりょう
Yeah, it's so good. What do you mean? Don't be mad. You will try harder. The pleasure from her ministrations threatened to impede my thoughts, and besides, my arousal has already vanished. At first, I considered making her stop when I gazed into her puppy dog eyes. However, I begin to think differently. Thanks to Saya, I have a family once again. For the first time, I am becoming aware of the responsibility that places on me. I am now the head of a new Sakisaka household, as well as its only male member. It is my duty to protect, comfort, and ensure the happiness of the women living under my roof. With that in mind, I know I mustn't show fear or confusion. That would only cause them
続
distress.
けろよ。
Continue. I entrust myself to Yo's eager touch, basking in the pleasure in one part of my mind, while contemplating our current predicament with the other. It is clear that I made a grave error when I failed to finish Koji off 2 days ago. Right now, I need to set off my frustration and anger aside and deal with this problem logically. It's time to leave. I have no way of knowing when Koji escaped from the well, or how much he has learned, or how many people he has had contact with since then. Now that it is impossible to know how far the problem has spread, merely disposing of Koji would guarantee your safety. When the enemy has poisoned your water supply, you can't take the risk that even one drop might remain. Your only choice is to stop drinking the water.
ねえふみのり誰と話してたの
Uminori, who were you talking to? Saya returns from the kitchen, where she'd gone in search of a midnight snack. She's munching on her favorite, spare ribs. Purging myself of unease and impatience, I respond with a casual
ちょっと
shrug.
厄介なことになりそうだ。工事のやつが生きててさ。
It looks like we have a little problem. That bastard Koji is still alive.
あらま
Oh dear. By breaking the news suddenly without any trace of anxiety, I'm able to avoid frightening Saya. Spit some extra ribs. Instead, she is merely surprised. Did I got some sauce in that? I knew that remaining calm would work. Moreover, I'm currently being pleasured by Yo. It would be hard for anyone to get too serious under these circumstances.
僕たち、この家を引き払った方がいいかもな。
Saya, it might be best if we leave this house.
そうか
Saya lowers her eyes and strokes her chin thoughtfully.
まあ、どっちみち鈴美さんの一家が消えたのがバレれば、この近辺も騒がしくなってただろうし、遅かれ早かれ、こういう日は来てたと思うよ。
This is bound to happen sooner or later. Even without Koji, it's only a matter of time before somebody reports the Suzumi family missing.
うん
Saya nods. I can tell that she's reluctant to leave, but at least there's no sadness in her expression. Everything will be fine. I will protect my life inside just as I have until now. I have that power. Knowing that we've overcome one problem fills me with new confidence.
安心していいよ。さあ、じゃあ急いで支度しよう。
Now then, we'd better get ready. We can travel light and take the Suzumi family car. I'd better withdraw everything that's left in my bank account and carry it as cash. I'll also need a weapon, something more reliable than a butcher's knife. Koji will most likely follow. He thinks that Yo can still be saved. However, I'm not abandoning this house just to run away. As long as Koji knows our location, we're stuck on the defensive. Leaving gives me a chance to regain the initiative and deal with him at the place of my choosing. They really have. And I like this new dynamic. I'm so glad that it's actually not over yet. The next time we meet, I'll kill him in my own 2 hands. I'll make sure to wring every drop of his life out of his body. A shiver runs through me as I anticipate the battle ahead, and my bloodlust burns like orgasmic fire. Yo. When Ryoko looks up, same with Ryoko too. The morning sun is already streaming in through the window. Tired from hours of poring over files, she removes her glasses and massages her aching eyes. Her dreams are always filled with horror, yet the night she just spent was more nightmarish than them all. And it's not over yet. She has only just set foot on the threshold. As expected, the files left by Ogai and Masahiko were not the sort that Ryoko could simply pick up and read. Fortunately, Ogai had been too old-fashioned to put his trust in electronic media. If he'd encrypted his files on a computer, she'd have to find a hacker to decipher them. In fact, he had not employed any kind of code in his writing. It must have been too time-consuming by hand. The method of obfuscation he did use was quite simple. Of the files pulled up from his underground lab, the majority turned out to be notes and theses from Ogai's days as a student. The most important papers were the diaries and research notes that had been scattered throughout the piles of worthless scrap. At first, she was unable to understand the documents that she had found. Each sheet was covered with text on one side and blank on the other. Each line was completely unrelated to the next, making it impossible to glean any meaning from the whole. The trick revealed itself, however, while she was sorting through the pages that made no sense. She found that each line continued on the same line on a different page. For example, the first day began on the first line, then continued not with the second line but with the first line on the next page. That seems kind of like too simple. Similarly, the second day was on the second line, and then the third line, and so forth. After filling all the lines on one set of pages, the guy had torn them all out and scattered them among his other files. Oh, there was no regularity to how the pages were numbered, of course. Unable to locate any sort of key or legend, Ryoko had no choice but to figure out the page order manually. Despite knowing that the task would be exhausting, Ryoko set to it valiantly. After separating all of the loose-leaf sheets from the jumbled files, she began the painstaking process of linking the pages together according to the contents of their first line. She found that Ogai had dismantled and scattered his diary each time he completed a number of days, equal to a number of lines on one page, and had done the same with his research every 30 pages or so. The diary was much easier to restore, because the entries varied in length. Later pages had a larger number of blank lines. Those with only one line, therefore, was the last page of the diary, and those with the most blank spaces could be considered closer to the end. Ryoko's perseverance had paid off, for she had already succeeded in restoring several volumes of Ogai's diary. As she reads them, she feels despair draining her spirit, as it's so many times before. This cursed feeling of powerlessness that comes with knowing hidden truths. Those who have tasted it once shall be beaten down by it again and again, until the day they die. All the secrets are connected, after all. Once you glimpse even the tiniest fraction of the world's true face, you have no choice but to watch in horror as the veil rolls itself back inch by inch. All that remains is to wait for the day when insanity will crush your reason under its ever-mounting weight. I have succeeded in communicating with the organism. It shows enormous curiosity, and its intelligence is beyond doubt. See research notes for confirmed vocal patterns and body language. Its appetite for knowledge is insatiable, and its learning speed is off the charts. However, it exhibits absolutely no desire to be recognized as an individual. Its ego appears to be quite weak, suggesting a psyche wholly unlike that of a human. The speed of the organism's linguistic development is astounding. When I laughed at its mispronunciations, it immediately picked up the concept of puns. Nice. Ever since, it has been employing its entire vocabulary in an attempt to find puns that will make me laugh. Am I Saya? Perhaps, in a few days' time, it will have learned enough language for us to communicate freely. The organism's command of spoken language is now sufficient to facilitate higher-level discourse, but although it has regaled me with questions all day, it remains unable to answer any of mine. It's just us. It's just chat. Its reply suggests that it had gained awareness only after materializing in this universe. It has no knowledge of where it came from. While I am disappointed, the fact that it has reached this level of intelligence only 1 week after starting tells me that there is no end to what I can learn from it. Hypothesis. It is not a naturally occurring organism, but was created by an even more sophisticated sentient life form. That would explain why it has no ego yet possesses hunger. Such a hunger for knowledge. It might be some sort of reconnaissance drone that was sent here from another world. Miyako smiles humorously for the umpteenth time since she started reading. How wonderful it would be if she could laugh off the diary as delusions of a madman or the work of a science fiction author. Alas, she knows far too much. And she thinks back to the many horrors that no guy brought into her life. The words before her take on a chilling credibility. I have confirmed that the organism's brain power far surpasses any human's. This morning I taught it about prime numbers. After I explained the Lucas-Lemmer test for Mercian primes, it immediately began to list examples that it had calculated in its head. I was only able to confirm by memory up to the number 10 M89, but it continued to list further examples without any trouble. I left it to its calculations, and when I returned a few hours later, I discovered that it had written more than 70 of them. Computers all over the world are currently working to calculate Mercian primes, but the last one I remember being found was the 39th back in 2001. When I entered several of the results into my laptop and ran the Lucas-Lemmer test on them, I found that every one was correct. The same is no doubt true of the rest. After all, the organism has never shown the pathological need for respect that would lead it to lie about its accomplishments. I see no reason to doubt its veracity. If I could reveal to the world an exponent method for discovering Mercian primes, the prize money would make me a billionaire. Of course, my current research is far more than any sum of money. I must keep it secret. The organism's computational speed exceeds that of even the most powerful supercomputers. I can only conclude that its cognitive faculties are beyond anything humanity can imagine. At the organism's request, we have begun a new field of study. Despite its immeasurable aptitude for mathematics, it now desires to concentrate on sociology and the natural sciences. Perhaps our math problems are simply too elementary for it. It has shown especially keen interest in the means by which organisms reproduce and multiply. As it possesses nothing that could be called emotion, I hesitate to use this description. But when it learned about DNA, it seemed somehow excited. In fact, the organism itself seemed surprised by its reaction. When asked about the nature of the impulse, the organism decided to label it instinct. If this description is indeed accurate, then this is an extremely significant development. It would mean that there is a deeper level to its psyche than just the knowledge it has acquired since coming to this world. If I can use this discovery to trace its roots, I might be able to learn what it truly is. Note: candidates for the plane and world of the organism's origin are currently discussed in my writings on the Silver Key, found separately. I spent the whole day carrying books into its room. Apparently, the organism is no longer satisfied by the knowledge I am able to impart. It should come as no surprise, considering its linguistic prowess, but the speed at which it consumes text is astounding. The diary continues for some time, chronicling the intimate relation between the guy and the organism. And I didn't know what percent primes are, but it seems like a lot. In the back of her mind, Ryoko imagines the old doctor coming down the well in the middle of the night to hold congress with some inhuman creature in the bizarre laboratory. The image is disturbingly similar to the nightmares that have shattered the silence of many nights with her screams. What follows, however, makes even her worst nightmares bear in comparison. The organism has made a very strange request. This is the first time it has asked for anything other than food and reading materials. I can hardly believe it, but it wants to consume the sperm of living creatures. This is separate from its desire for food. Once again, it is describing this impulse as instinctive. Now that it has declared itself a life form that requires the seed of males, it has begun to identify itself as female. After today, I suppose I shall have to start calling the organism a she. Is the personality that she had begun to exhibit really just an imitation created for her amusement? Ever since she started to immerse herself in our literature, she has been acting astonishingly human. She identifies herself as female and already possesses an enormous store of cultural knowledge. Is she trying to create a human identity for herself based on these? I have seen her laugh, grow angry, and today she cried. Is she just copying our emotional displays? If not, then she is already. There's a great Veritasium video on recent primes and explaining the extensive history of people trying to identify more. Oh, I see. Is the soul something that any intelligent life form can acquire? I feel that I am witnessing something more mysterious than the genesis of life itself. Today is her birthday. Although it is a year late, I want to give her a special gift. Saya was the name of my mother's cat mentioned. In childhood, she was my soul friend and my beloved. I decided long ago if I were ever blessed with children, I would give this name to my daughter. Happy birthday, Saya. Let this be the name of your soul. You have earned it. The ability that Saya has discovered in herself is showing even more extraordinary results each day. I have no doubt that she is kind of an artist. What exactly is that she created in her body from that rat semen I gave her? At this point, I can only surmise that it is a type of retrovirus, the reverse transcriptase enzyme that creates exactly what she desires. The rats have been transformed by her art, are so beautiful now. Maybe the doctor is seeing the same thing. The many enzymes secreted by her body and the various appendages she uses are discussed in detail in my biological observations, found separately. Here, I will say this. By witnessing Saya perform her operations on several rats, I have gained much confidence in my theory that her body is designed specifically to manipulate the biology of other organisms. Miyoko looks grimly at the still unsorted mountain of research notes, and she finally manages to separate those papers. She'll probably find the many other files mentioned in the diary. Ogai's biological observations at the very least. She wants to look through those before facing the thing called Saya. Under no circumstances does she want to go to a battle unprepared. She looks at her watch and sees that it's already 7 in the morning. Assuming Tono Koji has made no stops, he should be arriving in Tokyo about now. Now that it's too late, she wishes she'd stopped that stubborn fool from leaving, even if she had to shoot him in the leg to do it. Koji pulls up 2 blocks away from the Sakisaka house and stares at the silent building. In the bright light of the morning, the house seems shrouded in a dark miasma, like a black hole torn out of the landscape. Is it just a figment of Koji's imagination? Every window is closed, offering no glimpse of the inside. Koji has no way of knowing whether Fuminori is home. The pedestrian walks his dog down the street, glancing back at Koji through the windshield as he passes by. Koji isn't surprised by the attention. He hasn't bathed or changed clothes since spending the night buried in mud, so he must look like a vagrant even inside of his car. And he looks into the rearview mirror. He sees the haggard visage of a man with 1 foot in the grave staring back at him. It's hard to believe that the tired, unshaven face is really his. If he stays here for too long, someone might report him to the police. He'd better pull himself together and get moving. He drives slowly up to the front of Fuminori's house, quickly checks to make sure that no one is around, and gets out of his car. Anyone who might be in the house probably heard the sound of the engine, but there's no point in worrying about that now. Koji walks swiftly through the gate and yard to the front door. He puts his hand on the doorknob before going the bell. The time for such pleasantries has passed. The door is unlocked, and the door turns easily in his hand. He puts his ear to the door and listens for any sign of life. He's acting like a thief. He realizes with some shame, but that is the least of his worries now. No sound from within. After checking the street again to make sure no one is looking, he quickly opens up the door and disappears inside. An indescribable stink immediately assaults his nostrils. He is already prepared for anything, however. So rather than discourage him, the stench only sharpens his caution to a razor's edge. He had crossed this threshold many times in the past, and his memories of days spent here are still bright. So why Why does he feel the same ominous, blood-chilling aura that permeated Ogai's home and cabin? Anger and sorrow seize Koji's heart, as though a dear friend's grave has been defiled. Koji doesn't remove his shoes before entering. He knows why he's here, and it's not to be polite. Every storm shutter is closed, filling the house with gloom, and he can see nothing but pitch-black darkness through the open doors in the hallway. He should have brought his flashlight from the car, he thinks ruefully, and then remembers that he dropped the light when Fuminori attacked him. It's still lying in the backyard of the cabin in Tochigi. The house might be empty, then again, it might not. Each particle of the air seems charged with silent menace. Is his enemy lurking somewhere in the darkness? It's not hard to imagine Fuminori waiting for a chance to take him by surprise and finish what the wall failed to. Koji walks down the first floor hallway, then climbs the stairs and checks the second floor too. He moves slowly and carefully, keeping his senses sharp, but feels nothing watching him from the shadows. After completing his round safely, he is convinced that the house is empty. He suddenly realizes that his hand is touching the cold steel of the gun in his pocket. Did he intend to draw the weapon upon encountering Fuminori? Now that Koji thinks about it, his actions seem mysterious to him. What is he planning to do when he meets Fuminori? Will he lay into him with curses and epithets? Will he force himself to turn him in, or will he? Koji shakes his head. This isn't the time for such hopeless questions. If he keeps thinking, he'll stop moving, and if he stops moving, fear will paralyze him forever. His only choice is to keep marching on. He has to close distance to his prey. In any case, Fuminori isn't home. What form the reunion takes will probably be decided the moment of their meeting. All Koji has to do is not hesitate when the time comes. Still, why does the whole house smell like stagnant water? It's been 3 months since Fuminori distanced himself from his friends. Just what kind of life has he been leading all this time? Koji enters the living room and feels along the wall for a light switch. The moment he flips it on, the answer to his question is revealed. How far has Fuminori gone? Koji realizes that this is the first time he has encountered Fuminori's insanity in visible form. From the dust piled in the corners of the room, it is clear that the paint was not applied recently. How many nights has Fuminori spent surrounded by this maddening array of color? Why, if such obvious signs were available, why didn't Koji realize that something was wrong before it got this bad? Was he deaf to the dying screams of Fuminori's sanity? Was their friendship really so worthless? As he stands petrified in the unfamiliar living room, Koji directs his anger entirely at himself. If he could, he would like nothing more than to apologize to Fuminori for failing to help him through his suffering. Koji feels he might have been able to save his friend. Perhaps he is arrogant to think so. But if it's so, it is arrogance born of kindness. Koji passes through the living room and opens the sliding door that leads into the kitchen. When he enters, he finds that the most disturbing of the house's many stenches is strongest here. Blood. The room is redolent with the smell of countless layers of blood grown stale over time. He peers into the well-used sink. Around the rim, he sees faint, brownish red blotches that water alone couldn't rinse off. Even more obvious are the stains on the dish rag. Such stains are proof that the rag has been used and reused countless times. But what could it have been used on to make it such a sickening burgundy color? Koji stares at the refrigerator next to the counter as if there were a monster waiting to swallow him whole. He stands motionless until he is able to work up the courage simply to touch it. Then he steels himself, grabs the thick handle and opens the door. First, he'll check the freezer, and then the refrigerator. The freezer is packed with frozen meat of varying shapes and sizes, as each piece is wrapped tightly and frosted over plastic. He can't tell what kind of meat it is. The meat in the refrigerator, however, has already been thawed for consumption. Yo, grippers. For a while, he can only stare in disbelief at the 5 fingers beckoning to him from the back of the compartment. They are long, slender fingers of a woman, their blush tinge giving them the appearance of waxworks. Koji is unable to remember what Omi's hands look like, even though he has kissed her hands countless times. When he finished crying after his conversation with Fuminori, Koji promised himself that he would not cry again, and in fact, he does not. Yomu. He regrets his decision, however. He indulged himself too early. Isn't it also interesting that it's in this drawer here where you would actually put the fruits and the vegetables in? He should have saved his soothing tears for this moment. For now he knows that truly, nothing is sacred. At least his doubts about Fuminori have been utterly obliterated. Koji pulls a guy's revolver out of his pocket and wraps his hands around its grip like he would a charm. Its definite presence, its promise of merciful annihilation, is the only thing keeping his sanity intact. He will surely use it to kill Sakisaka Fuminori, not for revenge, not for justice, but to make this world once more a place governed by reason. For that purpose alone, he must eliminate the anomaly. He breathes deep, exhales, then lifts his hand before his face and stares at his spread fingers. Alright, he's not shaking. He is prepared to face his new objective. Koji sticks the revolver back into his pocket and pulls out his phone. It's time to finish this. Just as he promised earlier, Koji calls Fuminori again. The call goes through immediately. Fuminori must have been waiting for it. Hey Koji, where are you? What difference does it make? As soon as Koji responds, a shrill ringing fills the house. Startled, Koji spins around and looks into the hallway. The house phone is flashing to signal an incoming call. Baited. I see. I figured you'd be at my house. Koji fell for it. Fuminori is the one calling the house, and now he knows exactly where Koji is. He must have predicted that this would be Koji's first stop, and that Koji would call him upon finding it empty. So, I guess you've already seen everything. Yeah. Koji keeps his voice bold to conceal his horror. When did Fuminori become so cunning? It looks like you've become quite the meat eater since we last met. Just how many people have you killed? Actually, I've only killed one so far. Fuminori replies unapologetically, his tone upbeat. I've taken apart 3 or 4 though. I'm getting pretty good at removing the tendons and removing the blood and such. Koji no longer feels sadness or horror when faced with Fuminori's inhumanity. There is only the cold desire to kill the creature speaking such revolting words with his friend's voice. You killed Omi, didn't you? You bastard. You were lying when you said you hadn't seen her. I wonder. Fuminori mutters, seeming somehow embarrassed. I guess the first one I ate might have been Omi. It was the same day she disappeared, come to think of it. The body wasn't in any shape that I could identify. Koji had already abandoned hope, but it's still a shock to hear of his lover's brutal end. Tsukamatsu? No. Fuminori says with an exasperated chuckle. She's here, like I promised. I'm no fool. I need her to trade with you, right? I won't waste her. Let me hear her voice. I don't think that's possible. She's in no such shape to talk. Fuminori's dismissive words further sharpen Koji's
言った
bloodiness.
はずだぞ。彼女を無事に解放しないなら
You forget what I said? If you don't let her go unharmed. Come on. Be happy she's still alive. Or would you rather have Yo as a corpse? Let's get this straight, Koji. You bring your evidence along with all the files you've gathered, and I'm satisfied that they're the real thing. I'll hand you over. Fine. It's obvious that this deal is a sham. In all likelihood, Fuminori's planning to kill him and bury his secrets forever. Moreover, Koji doubts that Yo is even alive. Her meat could very well be somewhere in the refrigerator right in front of him. However, Koji isn't particularly interested in Fuminori's true intentions. After all, he has no intention of making a trade either. His only goal is to get close enough to destroy Fuminori and whatever is pulling his strings. Where? You remember Dr. Ogai's house, the one you followed me to? Let's meet there at 7. Come along. Hey. Fuminori hangs up without waiting for Koji's response. Perhaps Fuminori, too, has sensed his opponent's intent. If so, then he has realized that Koji is not just the hunted, but the hunter as well. So, we're like duelists maneuvering for advantage. Koji smiles grimly as he pockets his phone. It's astounding how much their relationship has changed. The question is whether or not to comply with the 7 o'clock rendezvous agreement. If this were a serious negotiation, then it would be wise to avoid preempting Fuminori in any way that could provoke his anger. What Koji and Fuminori are really doing is trying to lure each other into a deadly trap. Koji doesn't know what Fuminori plans to do between now and then, but he's not about to let his enemy keep the initiative. The fierce bloodlust that has taken root in his heart is more than enough to energize his exhausted body. Koji leaves the death-filled house, his stride more determined than before. Today was the first time I've driven since my accident in the summer. The proposition was always too dangerous to consider, given my inability to recognize roads and cars. Things have changed, however, in the 3 months I've had to adapt to my condition. I know what cars and pedestrians look like now, and even though I can't exactly see colors, I've learned to decipher lights and turn signals. Still can't read street signs, of course. Nevertheless, I managed to make it safely to our destination with Saya and Yo in the back seat. It was Saya who came up with the idea for our new hideout, an abandoned building she discovered while living with Dr. Ogai. In these hilly suburban residential areas, it's not hard to find thick patches of underdeveloped forest just off the beaten path. Saya's old playground is located in one such secluded area, unaffected by the flow of everyday life. It used to be a privately operated sanatorium, hidden among silent trees. After the owners went bankrupt, it remained unsold and was eventually forgotten. After I left Saya and Yo at the hideout, I returned to town to make some preparations. Now I'm finally back at our new refuge. I liked this ruin from the moment I saw it. Mountains of construction materials and garbage litter the front yard, forming a serviceable barricade. This place looks even less likely to receive unwanted attention than our house. Since my brain sees humans as revolting monsters, places they've been tend to stink or seem covered in filthy slime. Ruins like these, long empty of life, are the places I find most restful.
ただいま
I'm back. I call to let them know I'm not a stranger, then I go down to the basement where they're hiding.
おかえりなさい。車平気だった
Welcome back. Are you okay with the car?
もう全然問題ない
There's no
一方
problem
通
at
行の
all.
標識もどういうのか分かったしスピードさえ出さなければどこを走っても大丈夫だよでそっちは
I've figured out how to tell which roads are one way. As long as I keep my speed down, there's nothing to worry about. So, how are things here?
一通り調べたけど、やっぱりあれからずっと人が来た様子はないみたい。ここは安全だよ。
I think he would. He would love like liminal spaces out here. I took a look around. As I thought, there's no sign that anyone's been here since I found this place. It's safe.
そうか。ならいいんだけど。
I see. Let's hope it stays that way. I'm a little worried that this abandoned building could become a hideout for biker gangs or homeless people.
多分表に積み上げてあるゴミのせい。あれ普通の人間にはちょっと耐えられないんじゃないかな。
It's probably because of all of that trash piled out front. Most people won't get anywhere near that, don't you think? I guess. It doesn't bother me at all. I rather like it, in fact. But of course, normal people would feel differently.
で、ふみのりの買い物はいいの見つかった？
So, how was your shopping? Did you find something good?
あ、もちろん。
I sure did. Oh. No, it's just like what we have. I proudly unwrapped the weapon I just bought from the camping goods store. A 1 meter long wood axe, the biggest and sturdiest I could
刃
find.
渡り15センチ以上のナイフは銃刀法違反だなんて張り紙してあるのに、その隣でこんなもの売ってるんだよ。お笑いだよね。
Truly our guy. Oh, guy. I like how this was right next to a sign saying that long knives are illegal. Seems like you could do way more damage with one of these things. I gripped the axe with both hands, testing its dependable weight and swing it like a baseball bat. The deadly steel blade sweeps through the air, where a person's neck would be. Yo, who sprawled out on the floor, flinches at the sound and curls herself into a ball.
切れ味とかどう？用で試してみたら？
How sharp is it? Wanna test it out on Yo?
いや、それはちょっと。
I don't think that's a good idea. I definitely wasn't expecting Saya to suggest something so brutal.
心配いらないよ。今のような体だったら刃物とかの傷は割と簡単に治っちゃうから。
You don't need to worry. Her new body can heal pretty much from cuts and such pretty easily.
いや、それにしたって痛いだろう。
But I'm sure it'll hurt.
そっか。
Oh,
そうだ
yeah.
ね。
I guess you're right. It must have slipped her mind completely. She smiles at the oblivious Yo as if to hide her embarrassment, then says,
でもさ、痛くされた時のようの声って、それはそれで可愛いよね。
But her screams are pretty adorable, don't you think?
いや、やっぱり人間に斧で切りかかるってのは気が引けるよ。
I just wouldn't feel right using an axe on a human.
そうなの？
Really?
じゃあ、コウジさんは？
And what about Koji?
そりゃだって。
That's easy. It should be obvious, but I guess that Saya still doesn't
やつは
understand.
僕には人間に見えないから、切ろうが潰そうが平気なもんさ。
I don't see him as human. I'll have no trouble cutting him to pieces.
そんなに違うんだ。
That really makes a
そう
difference?
さ。
Yeah.
人間には良心があるからね。
Humans have a conscience, you see.
どんなに憎い人間だろうと、人を殺すと思うとブレーキがかかるもんだ。そこが僕の称賛でもある。
No matter how much you hate someone, you can't help but think twice about killing them. And that's how we'll win.
本当に？
Really? Saya seems awfully subdued. I guess she's concerned about what'll happen when I have it out with
体格
Koji.
じゃあいつが上だし、普通に喧嘩したんじゃ勝ち目は薄いかもしれないけどね。
He's bigger and stronger, so I might not have much chance against him in a straight up
でも
fight.
僕にとっての化け物退治があいつにとっては人殺しなんだ。こいつは大きいよ。あいつはきっと最後の瞬間で隙を見せる。
But what's just slaying to a monster to me is murder to him. This is big. He'll definitely hesitate when it counts.
なんだか不安なんだよね。そういう心理戦っていうの確実じゃないっていうか。
I'm a little worried, Saya says softly, staring at the floor with unusual gravity. You can never be sure how someone will react. It's dangerous to rely on that. And then, for now, we'll go save up here. Let me go and do this. I must attend to the graveyard, as always. But I'm just so glad that there's this much content still left. Especially when I've seen some of the hours spent in this game from the reviews. I thought it was going to be a shorter game. So that's even better. So we still have some more for next Thursday when we do more Saya. Yeah, and thank you everybody for coming along again. We love our Fruits Basket anime. Yes. Let's go ahead and say hi to Nia. And then I'll go to work. Yeah. Same with you, Chu. That is true. That is true. Because we are kind of like, and also waiting for all of the voices and everything. Okay. Yeah. Okay, just making sure it's spelled out right. All right, let's go. We already know the drill. We're going. Thank you. I will do my best at the graveyard. Have a good night, everybody. Yeah.